The NFL playoffs are right around the corner, and in today's video, we're going to be predicting who's going to win the Super Bowl, as well as the surprises that might be in store. And also keep in mind, right now I'm recording this right before Week 18, so these predictions are from CBS Sports based on the seeding. And if you guys are as excited as I am to get into this video, make sure you guys like and subscribe to stay in the know about everything NFL and NBA. I really do appreciate it, and let's go ahead and get into the video. All right, let's go ahead and start off here with the 7th seed Broncos at the 2 seed Bills. Obviously, the Denver Broncos this year have been very good with Bo Nix as their quarterback, but I still think that the Buffalo Bills should win this game. I think that Josh Allen's going to be way too much for the Broncos to handle. This year he's had over 4,200 total yards with 40 touchdowns. I think that there is a world where the Broncos defense is able to shut down Allen, which is definitely something we have seen in the past with Josh Allen. We know that he likes to go into a Superman mode, right? Try to take over games, and this can lead to some turnovers. Something else I do want to point out here is the Bills are actually 8-0 at home this year, which is something that I think is going to be something big for this game, considering that the Bills are at home. Next up, let's go ahead and look at the 6 seed Steelers versus the number 3 seed Ravens. I think this one the Ravens should win. I think Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry may struggle a little bit due to the Steelers having the number 5 rush defense efficiency, but I think Russell Wilson and the Steelers rushing offense is going to struggle a lot against this Ravens defense. But I do think that there's also a possibility here where Russell Wilson could turn back the clock to the Seattle days, and they could definitely win against the Ravens. Like I'm kind of mentioning here, I think that there's definitely a possibility for any of these teams to win, right? All of these teams are very competitive. They're all winning teams, and there's no reason why these games shouldn't be very close. But I do think that the Ravens have the slight edge, and I just think that Lamar Jackson, with his MVP type year that he's having, is going to be very good in his performance against the Steelers. And I think that Derrick Henry is just such a good fit with this Ravens offense that it's going to be very hard for the Steelers to stop them. Next up, let's look at the 5 seed Chargers versus the 4 seeded Texans. So this one's also pretty interesting. Obviously, the Texans are very injured this year with Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs, 2 of their main receivers being out for the rest of the season. The Chargers are a team who no one was really expecting to make the playoffs. Obviously, new Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh has really turned the corner for this Chargers franchise, who was really struggling, right? Justin Herbert's looked a lot better this year. Ladd McConkey's someone that stepped up a lot. J.K. Dobbins, obviously, he was on the IR for the past 4 weeks, but now he's back. He's playing pretty well. And I just think that the number 3 ranked pass defense for the Texans, along with the number 9 ranked rush defense and their number 2 pressure rate defense, I think that's just going to be way too much for this Chargers offensive line to handle, and I think overall just like their offense in general. But I do see a world where CJ Stroud and company can't really get anything flowing offensively, kind of like we saw with the Ravens last week. And I think that there is definitely a strong chance where we could see the Chargers take this one. Like every other game, there's always a possibility. I think the Texans being at home is definitely something big for them, but at the same time, this Texans team is just so injury riddled, and there's just watching this season has been a struggle for me as a Texan fan. So going into this game, there's definitely a possibility we lose this one. Next up here, we're going to have the number 3 seeded Ravens at the number 2 seeded Bills. And honestly, this might be a little bit of a shocker here, but I think that the Ravens are going to win this game. Obviously, the Bills at this point would be 9-0 at home, which is something to consider. But I just think that Lamar Jackson's passing ability has really improved this year, and I think that he has the potential to torch this Bills secondary. And I think Derrick Henry is also going to open the field up, something that we've seen basically throughout the entirety of the year, which is going to cause even more damage. And I think that it's definitely possible that the Ravens secondary is going to fall apart, right? I believe right now they're ranked 16th in passing efficiency, which is very mediocre. And I mean, Josh Allen is definitely a dude who could pick apart a defense right now. Josh Allen has been a very good player, right? I think that he's a MVP type caliber player. He's just, sometimes I feel like he can be a little bit too inconsistent, but I still think that the Ravens offense here is going to be a little bit too much for the Bills defense to handle. And I mean, once again, the Bills are at home, but I just think that the Ravens are going to have too much firepower for the Bills defense to handle. All right, next up here, let's go ahead and look at the number 4 seed Texans at the number 1 seeded Chiefs, who had the bye. And I think undoubtedly the Chiefs win this game. The Texans, like we said before, very injured. This honestly probably shouldn't be too much of a game, right? Patrick Mahomes is probably going to have a really solid game, but I think overall this Chiefs defense is probably going to torture the Texans offense. Obviously, with them missing Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs, like we mentioned before, and with how inconsistent they have been, I definitely do think that there's a shot that CJ Stroud could have an absolute masterclass, but this is like a 10% chance maybe. I think that the Chiefs should have this one locked up. And you know, here now we have the number 3 seeded Ravens at the number 1 seed Chiefs. And this game undoubtedly gonna be very good. I'm gonna have to go with the Ravens. I'm honestly just sick and tired of the Chiefs making the Super Bowl. I think a lot of people can agree with me. But also for real, I do think the Ravens have a really good shot at winning this year. Lamar Jackson, honestly, he's playing better than he was last year. They have Derrick Henry as their running back, who is a big upgrade over Justice Hill, who they had last year. And Derrick Henry has really fit perfectly into this offense where he's filling Gus Edwards' role last year, who, don't get me wrong, Gus Edwards is not a horrible running back, but I think Derrick Henry is a much better running back, and I think that basically everyone would agree with me on that, right? I think also also the defensive side of the ball for the Ravens is providing a lot of optimism for them. I think that the Chiefs know how to win games, though. That's really why they're 16-1. They're honestly winners. Looking at how many games they've won within one score, it's kind of insane, right? And I think that the Chiefs can win any game that they're put up to, right? And I think that it's really just because they know how to win. Andy Reid knows how to win. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, all these guys have experience in winning. And so that's something that's really big in sports. But I do think that the Ravens are probably going to win this game just because I really do like Lamar Jackson's odds this year with Derrick Henry as his running back. All right, now going over to the NFC side of things. Let's start off here with the 7-seeded Packers at 2-seeded Eagles. And this is probably my first major upset. I'm going to have to go with the Packers here. I think this is going to be a very close game, but I really do like Jordan Love in the playoffs. I think that him and company they're just going to be able to win this game, right? I think that the Eagles run game undoubtedly is going to be there. Saquon Barkley has been amazing this season. Jalen Hurts' rushing ability is amazing, but I really do question Jalen Hurts' passing volume and how he's going to be coming back from that hand injury and his concussion. But I really do think that Jordan Love is a guy who just loves pressure and is able to handle it. And I think that with that being in mind, I think that the Packers should win this game here. And I really do think that this is going to be another one that's pretty high scoring, and it's going to be a very close contest between the two teams. Next up here, let's go ahead and look at the 6-seeded Commanders versus the number 3-seeded Buccaneers. I think that the Bucs are going to win this one. I know rookie QB Jaden Daniels is probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year unless Bo Nix takes it. I could definitely see that, but I don't think that he's going to fold under pressure. That's not really my main concern. But my main concern for the Commanders is Baker Mayfield, someone who, like Jordan Love, loves pressure, who's going to thrive in it. And I really think that this Commanders defense is probably going to struggle in this game against the Buccaneers, especially with Bucky Irving having such a breakout year out of nowhere, really. But there is also a world where we see the Bucs defense completely collapse. Like the Commanders, their defense is definitely not Super Bowl worthy yet. I think that their offense is amazing, right? But something for both the Commanders and Buccaneers to improve on this offseason will be their defense. I think that in that case, the Commanders do have a shot to win if the Bucs defense obviously crumbles. But I still think either way, the Bucs probably have better odds here. I really just like Baker Mayfield to Mike Evans. I love that connection. Obviously, Chris Godwin's out. Obviously, he was such a great player for them before he was hurt, but now he's out. Someone who stepped up. I just think that the Buccaneers have a really good shot to take this one. All right, next up here, we got the 5-seeded Vikings at the 4-seed Rams. And honestly, this one here might also be a shocker, although the Rams did beat the Vikings in the regular season. But I still think the Rams are going to win. They have been on a hot streak since Puka and Cooper Kupp have been back, obviously winning 5 in a row. And before they won those 5 in a row, they were considering trading someone like Cooper Kupp, right, to a team that was really in the mix for contending. And right now, they're back in it, right? I mean, I think that the Vikings defense this year definitely has a shot to pull them back in this game. And the Vikings offense with Sam Darnold at quarterback has a shot to torch the Rams defense, who's definitely not great at all. And I mean, considering everything that the Vikings offense has been able to do with Sam Darnold as their quarterback, absolutely insane, right? JJ McCarthy was supposed to come in and be the starter. I think either way, the Rams should take this one. I think that this has been a very good season for the Vikings, though. I think that if you're a fan, you're definitely very optimistic about the future. You know, obviously Sam Darnold being a free agent this year, it'll be interesting to see where he goes. But overall, I think the Rams should win this one and they should move on to the next round. Next up here, let's go ahead and look at the number 7 seed Packers at the number 3 seed Buccaneers. I think that the Packers win this game as well. I mean, I think Jordan Love, once again, it's going to be a little bit too much here for the Buccaneers defense. I think it's going to be a very close game, however, with a lot of points scored. I think that this probably could be the most points scored matchup here in the entire NFL playoffs. But I think that the Packers just have better odds going into this game, right? I think that Josh Jacobs is going to be able to take over this game if he really wants to, if Jordan Love's not, obviously going to handle the pressure that well, which I doubt he does. But I really think that it's going to be a very, very high scoring game, obviously with Baker Mayfield as their quarterback and with Jordan Love as quarterback as well. I think that the connections that they have with their receivers is something that's hard to replicate. But overall, I do think that the Packers should win this game, and I think that it's going to be a great game overall, though. But the Packers, I'm going to have to say, are moving on to the NFC Championship. Next up here, we got the number 4 seed Rams at the number 1 seed Lions, who had a bye. I really do think that the Lions win this one. Obviously, this is going to be two of the most explosive offenses in the entire NFL facing off, but I think that the Rams defense really can't match up with the Lions offense too well. On top of that, I think that the Lions defense has a better chance to match up with the Rams defense, if that makes sense. So I think that they win that battle, right? I think once again that this is going to be a very high scoring game with two of the most explosive offenses once again facing off, right, with the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, J-Mo could potentially go off, right? And then you got Jared Goff as your quarterback. Looking at the Rams, Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams and Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, all of those guys are really, really good players, and throughout the season, they've really proven how good that they can be together. But I think overall, the Lions should win this game, which will hoist them into the NFC Championship against the Packers. All right, now in this game against the Lions and Packers, I think that the Lions should win this one. I think once again, this is probably a matchup that the fans would enjoy a lot. I think two of these teams are probably the ones that people want to see in the Super Bowl the most. Maybe the Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield. I love me some Baker money, but I think that, you have two very good offenses going at it. One with a legacy of winning with the Packers, and another trying to switch up the culture with the Lions. And I really do think that the Lions, once again, with their offense, is just going to be too much for the Packers defense, which is going to lead them to the Super Bowl, where they will play the Baltimore Ravens. Now, in this Lions versus Ravens Super Bowl, I think that this is going to be really close. I think Lamar Jackson and company are going to throw up a really good fight, but I think that the Lions are going to win it this year. And the Lions were a team coming into the year that I thought was going to be in the Super Bowl running for sure. Them and the Packers were my main two favorite teams, right? Which is, a little bit of bias here in the NFC Championship, right? But I do think that Jared Goff's going to win the Super Bowl MVP in this matchup. The whole city of Detroit's going to be finally celebrating after decades of suffering. And I don't know. I think that the Ravens definitely have a great shot if they make the Super Bowl. But I just think that the Lions, they have more options to go to offensively. And I think that really is something big looking at, the whole talent atmosphere of the Super Bowl. I think that that's going to be too much for the Ravens. I think that if Zay Flowers, potentially, he could have a really good game. Obviously, Mark Andrews has been showing up a lot more, right? Derrick Henry, we talked about him. Lamar Jackson, we talked about him. But I just think overall, the Lions have way too much for the Ravens to handle. Alright, and that is the end of this video. If you guys like these predictions, let me know in the comments below. If you guys disagree with them, let me know in the comments below as well. I really do appreciate you guys for making it all the way throughout the video. And if you guys are here, you guys might as well like and subscribe, right? So if you guys want to do that, you can. It's totally up to you. But I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next week.